I never knew much about Silent Hill until playing through the remake over this past week, and I can confidently say that the reviews don't even scratch the surface of why it creates such an incredible atmosphere. Silent Hill 2 made me think about horror in an entirely different way, and I feel both terrified and in complete awe at the fact that my generation, the bunch of brain-rotted gremlins that we are, have had it pushed into our hands as consumers. This video is made for two kinds of people. First, the naive ones who, like me, don't know much about the Silent Hill franchise, and second, the hardened veterans who hold this franchise to be something so important to them as both a nostalgic and simply beautiful work of art. Silent Hill 2 gained a reputation of being especially sad compared to a lot of the stories across the other games, and let me tell you, that could not be any more accurate. This is a depressing story, so if you're ready for a roller coaster of emotions, then I invite you to come along with me and immerse yourself into a town. But not just any town, a town that draws in the most vulnerable, a town that doesn't let you forget, a town that becomes your nightmare. Welcome to Silent Hill. It is critical we talk a little bit about the backstory of Silent Hill as a town and, well, why it's so creepy, since the background knowledge will help you understand how you fit into all this in the actual remake. So let's get into it. Long ago, before major colonization from Europe, we zoom into what would later become Maine in America. Toluca Lake specifically used to be inhabited by Native Americans. These natives called the land the place of the silent spirits, and it not only had spirits of the natives' relatives, but spirits that they believed had inhabited the trees, rocks, and water around them, meaning this area may very well have been a resting ground for any spirits, with the natives just having settled there at that point in time. And speaking of settlers, after European colonizers arrived in the area, an early version of Silent Hill was built, establishing a settlement. The Native Americans were forced out of their lands in the process, and as such, what Silent Hill would become is a bleak reminder of what happened to many Native American peoples in the earlier days of North America. During this time, before the town was coined Silent Hill, a woman named Jennifer Carroll would come to be an important piece to the puzzle. She was basically a saint to an institution, or really a cult, which was known as the Order. Carroll was executed due to political opposition, likely meaning the witch trials, since this was in the 17th century. It being something to do with the witch trials, or at least religious reasons, is further evident by her memorial found in Rosewater Park, containing a plaque which says, "Victim of persecution by the Christians. Jennifer Carroll lived with pride and honor. What happened here shall never be forgotten." But why is this important? Well, after her death, at the start of the 1700s or 18th century, a plague ravaged the town, killing off most of the residents, and the ones that didn't die left due to the outbreak. Because of this, the town actually lost its original name. In the 19th century, a penal colony, a colony of prisoners, was formed near Toluca Lake, mostly from people who believed in manifest destiny, and they were the ones who at last named the town Silent Hill. During this time, they established a prison and a hospital. But oh boy, Silent Hill is an unlucky place to be, because a second epidemic started to surge through the town. They survived this though, and businesses like the Gillespie Coal and Iron Company established the Devil's Pit mine in 1816, and in the 1850s, the Wilts coal mine opened, which caused the town to be booming in its economy. There's other events that happen, but they're not important to any of the locations you go to in Silent Hill 2, so let's stay laser focused here. In 1862, the town formed the Toluca Prison to house prisoners of the opposition during the Civil War. Though with the conclusion of the battle, it turned into a correctional facility. All seemed well and good, aside from, what just happened with the Civil War, until people started to go missing again in the quaint little town of Silent Hill in 1890. In the early 1900s, or 20th century, the Toluca Prison closed down for unknown reasons, and the Silent Hill Historical Society took its place, which is kind of like a museum. With a non-functional prison and the mines running dry and consequently closing, the town changed to more of a tourist site to gain revenue. Not long after, in 1911, a local legend started to spread that miners discovered mysterious symbols within the mines, with speculation forming that it was witchcraft or from the occult. After this, the Gillespie Coal and Iron Company suspended any more mining in the cave due to reports of mysterious creatures being seen in it. These were likely the early forms of the entities we see in the Silent Hill games. Jumping to the latter half of the 20th century, a girl named Alessa Gillespie was born, and she had a strong connection to the paranormal. We're not going to cover her entire story because for Silent Hill 2, it's kind of irrelevant due to the game being mostly an isolated storyline. But we can cover her later if Konami ever does decide to do a Silent Hill 1 remake. Getting back to it, it was around this time that Silent Hill started to gain its trademark curse of attracting sinful people towards it. Sinful people like a certain main character that you play as in this here remake. So without further ado, let's talk about James. It's around the 1980s. This is James Sunderland, a regular everyday Joe office worker, depression included. Oh, and he's the protagonist of Silent Hill 2. The game begins with James as he's washing his hands in an old rundown rest stop. Leaving the small building, his car can be seen parked right on the outskirts of the eerie town itself, overlooking the Toluca Lake. James is searching for his wife, Mary, who at this point in time, he believes to have been dead for 3 years from an illness. I say he believes because not all is as it seems. James is in a delusional state of mind, which over the course of the game and his journey into Silent Hill, he'll come to interpret in one of a couple different ways depending ultimately on how you finish the game and which ending you get. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. James needs to find Mary, and while he believes she's been dead for 3 years, Silent Hill is calling to him and his desperation to reunite with her, believing this town could do just that, either in life or in death. From the get-go, you don't know much about James other than through the subtext of the letter that Mary's voice can be heard reading in the beginning of the game, explaining how her and James felt sentimental about Silent Hill being a place they had visited during their best days, before she had gotten so sick. He had promised he'd take her back one day, but never did. And strangely, she says in the letter that now she's in Silent Hill, alone, waiting. This is at least James's perception of the letter, and so with some hesitation, he ultimately begins his hike down into the eerie, quiet woods, following a trail that splits off from the main road. As James walks down that trail, you start to feel the unsettling weight of your decision. Holy f*** is that?
Okay, that was not water.
As you should well know by now, you're not approaching a normal town, and before you know it, the further you walk towards the inevitable, the more fog really starts to surround you. Fog is coming, the fog is coming. The fog is coming.
Hello, I am Mr. Beast. The fog is coming.
Eventually you reach a strange well with what looks like a red square, or perhaps a letter lying inside it. This acts as your save point, and while its lore significance is not clear, it's almost as if it is symbolic of the letter being the thing that allows James to push on, to remind him of what he's really here for. Reaching a cemetery, a lovely place to be in a horror setting, the irony is that this is actually one of the most peaceful places you'll ever be in this game. It's here that you meet one of the few fellow reoccurring travelers to the town, Angela.
Excuse me.
She's a little anxious after you gave her a Freddy Fazbear jump scare, but ultimately she has a short conversation with James and explains that it's probably best to avoid the town altogether due to something being not quite right. And when James says he's looking for someone, Angela says that she is too. She's looking for her mom. With the connection established of having similar goals, the two ultimately split off on their own paths, both feeling like they need to go it alone. To the nene.
That's like the most feminine dodge ever.
You head through and out of the cemetery, reaching a long dirt road leading directly to the town. Oh, dude, it's the rocks from Ark. From Ark Survival Evolved.
Wait.
Also, fun fact, there's a chainsaw you can find this early in the game along the path when you're in New Game Plus mode. Wait, I found a fucking chainsaw. Reaching a locked door, you're forced to look around for a way to open it, and while scavenging, you find a key to do just that. The further you move forward, the further you approach the point of no return. Though if we're being honest, that ship sailed the moment you entered the forest. You eventually find a map of the east side of Southvale, helping discern your bearings a little bit in the never-ending fog. And speaking of which, you're certainly not alone in it. Oh.
I like his fucking eyebrows. Like, the fuck did I just see?
Wait, you got a nice ass. Wait, hold on. Wait, come back. Eventually, you're confronted with the creature, and I want you to pay attention to its appearance because the creatures in Silent Hill are a manifestation of the traumas, the regrets, and the sins of those that it torments. Shit on me!
Oh, is she dead now?
You.
Okay, she's dead now. Or it, or whatever.
You continue to make your way through the town, finding clues and key items, all the while with James having a rather delusional, irresponsible reaction to it all. He doesn't seem to be as afraid as you'd almost expect, but this kinda isn't surprising considering he's probably been through a lot in his life, and the town has likely been having an effect on his mind ever since he arrived. All that matters to him is finding Mary, and he will crush as many of these monsters as he must under his boot or by the force of his nailed plank if it means reaching that goal. Along the way, you find a lovely, totally inconspicuous hole in the wall and do what any reasonable person would do in this situation, promptly f***ing around and finding out. I'm gonna put my hand in the hole. Oh, I'm gonna fist it. Number two. This whole James putting his fists in weird places is gonna be a recurring theme, along with other reckless activities such as jumping into bottomless holes, but that's for later. Eventually, James triggers a whole lot of creepy thigh monsters and makes a mad dash for an apartment complex, locking himself inside. Exploring the rundown building, you eventually find a flashlight. What the Ah! You know, I liked when I couldn't see things. Then you meet this little gremlin girl named Laura.
Hey!
Ow.
Wait!
And not long after, you come face to face, albeit on either ends of a wall of bars, with this entity, known as Pyramid Head. The symbolism of the creature is integral to James's character, and all you really need to know is that it originated in Silent Hill 2 and doesn't really belong in other Silent Hill games because fundamentally, it is a creature unique to James's subjective experience, regrets, and self-hatred. After making your way through most of the apartment complex, you find a body in a fridge and what sounds like someone having a really bad hangover nearby.
Hey, who's there?
It wasn't me. I didn't do it.
What the fuck? This is Eddie, and he's not having a good time. Just like James and Angela, he seems to be another victim that was drawn to the town for one reason or another, attached to some kind of traumatic guilt. While Angela's will be revealed in time, Eddie's seems to immediately have something to do with being accused of a horrible crime, rather than the crime itself. But we'll get more into Eddie's story later on. Eventually, after solving a puzzle, you get to room 201, which, unbeknownst to James at this point, marks his descent into the... Room 201 is almost as silent as the hill. Ah! What the f? Oh, Jesus. That guy again. It goes pow. Pyramid Head leaves, and you head on through this rather strange red door that transports you to the Otherworld, the upside down of the upside down. Allow me to elaborate on what that is. See, Silent Hill, the town, is simply a fictional town set in the state of Maine. It is, of course, affected by some kind of curse, and the first layer of that curse is known as the Fog World. It's basically a direct parallel to the actual real world, and immerses people into it probably without them realizing, both because the layout of the geography and everything is basically identical, kind of like the Upside Down in Stranger Things, but also because it seems to be like a dreamlike dimension that deludes the mind, similar to how Silent Hill draws people into it in the first place. We've basically been in the Fog World since we arrived in town, but that's where the Otherworld comes in. Going even deeper than this first layer is a second layer of sorts, the Otherworld. This dimension is still somewhat similar to the layout of the real and Fog World, but with noticeable distortions. Rusted, decrepit walls, an endless night sky, and the worst monsters you could imagine. These are the things that characterize the Otherworld, and James, having just walked over that gap, entered it. The first Otherworld is basically a similar layout to the actual apartment complex that you just played through, but with an entirely different overarching puzzle. It's in this Otherworld that you run into Angela once again, and it starts to become a little clearer what kind of trauma she's dealing with.
Look, I'm not sure what you're planning, but there's always another way.
Really? What's the point? It's easier just to run. Maybe it's all we deserve.
We?
Me. You. We're all the same.
I'm not like you.
Are you afraid? Sorry.
It's okay.
Did you find the person that you were looking for?
Not yet. Her name's Mary. She's my wife.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I don't know why I think she's here. She died 3 years ago.
She's dead?
Oh, don't worry, I'm not crazy. At least I don't think so.
I have to find my mama.
Should I go with you? This town really is dangerous. Now I know what you meant back there in the cemetery.
No, it's okay. Besides, I'd just slow you down.
What about that?
Will you hold it for me?
Sure, no problem.
If I kept it, I'm not sure what I might do. No! I'm sorry! I've been bad! Please don't!
Angela's clearly struggling with probably a lot of conditions caused or made worse by abuse by her father and brother in her past. She likely sought comfort in her mother during those horrible times, which is why she's trying to find her mama now. Angela gives you a knife as a kind of compulsive behavior in response to the idea she might hurt herself with it. This Otherworld section culminates in a true one-on-one encounter with Pyramid Head, but ultimately you ward him off and he just kind of leaves. Sometimes that's how it is to fight with your inner demons. They're there one moment and then other important matters come up and they just leave. But like most of the things that plague our minds, like intrusive thoughts, Pyramid Head will be back to prey on James for the next time that he's most vulnerable. After escaping the Otherworld and once again embracing the fog, James runs into the little girl. But this time, Laura actually talks to him for a minute, and before running off, she bursts out at James saying that he didn't love Mary anyways. This marks the point where Laura effectively becomes James's means to finding Mary, because as far as he's found so far, Laura's the only other one in the town that even knows who Mary was. Confused and concerned, he searches for Laura, stumbling through Rosewater Park before coming upon a lakeside gazebo with a woman standing against the railing. With pink highlights and a cute butterfly tattoo in clear view, Maria is a parallel to Mary. She's a delusion created by the town's curse, James's fragile mind, or both. Acting as a kind of what-if version of Mary, one that's more spicy, exciting, or dominant than his late wife, Maria is likely the embodiment of an ever-pressing intrusive thought of what he wishes his wife could have been, instead of the sick woman that she became. Maria stands to further torment him, although he doesn't seem fully cognizant of the fact that she's not real. Nonetheless, James takes her with him as his hallucinated companion, and they travel through more of the town in the fog world for a time, with the odd sarcastic interaction.
Whoa. Hey, why'd you do that?
You fucking thing, bitch. We're in Silent Hill. I can do whatever I want.
You startled me.
Yeah, good. You've been startling me all fucking afternoon.
You trying to blind me, James?
Yeah.
Can you let me in?
After Maria takes you to a strip club, James really is not having any of her shit, and they move on to a movie theater. She stays outside while you head on in, overhearing Eddie and Laura having an adorable conversation. A vulnerable, bullied, and insecure guy having a heart-to-heart with an innocent, guilt-free little girl. A strange contrast, but one almost to be expected in a place like this. Ultimately, Laura runs off, and James talks to Eddie, finding him in an even worse state than you last saw him.
We met back at the apartment building.
Yeah,
Hi.
I remember.
Hi. What the? He's lapping up what seems to be melted strawberry ice cream. And it takes one look at this dude to realize he's cooked. I think he's lost it. It really doesn't get any better for him from here on either. Heading out of the theater, you and your hallucinated stripper friend run after Laura, arriving at a totally not creepy hospital. Oh, this must be where the nurses are. After heading inside, yep, definitely expected this. Why are their faces blurred out? It's so creepy. Oh! You solve more puzzles. Maria takes a nap. Oh! Oh! Hi, Pyramid Head. God, he's so fucking hot. I want him to throw me like that. You find Laura, then she locks you in a scary room with this fucking thing. Oh. And you wind up in a cursed Otherworld version of the hospital. Maria tracks you down, gets angry since she probably thinks you left her to go find edibles. I can't remember. Whoa.
James.
Mary! Oh. Maria, I thought... Sorry. Anyway, I'm glad you're alive.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway? I was almost killed back there. I have never been so scared in my whole life. All you care about is that dead wife of yours.
You couldn't care less about me, could you?
And then Pyramid Head returns.
Maria, run.
Come on, hurry!
Oh my god, is she dead? Let's go! Once you make it out of the hospital, oh no, you're not quite out of the thick of it yet because hey, this is what the other world looks like when you're not in a building. Yeah, this might be the closest fictional representation of what my childhood nightmares look like because goddamn is this horrifying. Nurse after nurse, finger dancer after finger dancer, creeper after creeper. Aw man, you finally escape the other world and end up in the fog world once again, but it's a bit dark. And oh hey, Angela.
This place is different from what I remember. I guess things never really stay the same, do they?
I guess not.
Think she's here anymore, James?
Who?
My mama?
Oh, you didn't happen to see a little girl around here, did you?
A little girl?
Angela? Are you all right? Angela, it's okay.
No, don't touch me!
So with Angela clearly traumatized out of her f***ing mind, all you can do is push forward, and you don't have to go very far because a couple feet in front of where the cutscene ended lays a box containing a key and a message addressing you, James, directly, rather creepily. It says that the key is for the old Historical Society building, and that whoever the writer is, praise the Lord, will have mercy on your soul. Great! Without much else to do, you make a beeline right for the Historical Society building, a small little museum of sorts for the quaint town, giving much in the way of lore dumps. If you recall from earlier in the video, the Historical Society had taken the place of the Toluca prison, and you'll find out soon why that connection is rather important. At the back of the building, you find a rather strange staircase, one that goes on for a very long time. What the f? Just keeps going. Oh my god. It never ends. Dude. How fucking deep? Reaching the bottom of the stairs, James finds himself entering a prison. What the f? I feel like the KK. How is it buried this deep under the ground? Well, I think it's safe to say this staircase marks your entrance into the Otherworld once again. You fight a couple monsters before finding your first square hole that you have no other option but to jump down into.
I'm in the fucking Minecraft.
It's here that you have another encounter with Eddie, who, well, I'll just let the cutscene speak for itself.
Ain't no big deal. Just put the gun to their head and
Eddie?
oh, hi James.
What happened here? Who was that?
I don't know. He just came at me.
Okay. So he attacked you, and you shot him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. He made me do it.
Okay, calm down, Eddie. Any idea why he would do that?
I don't know. He came out of nowhere. Tried sneaking up on me in the dark. I heard footsteps, so I turned back and he was right there.
And you could tell that he wanted to hurt you.
Well, yeah, I mean, the way he looked at me, I just had to do it.
He looked at you? I thought you said he came at you.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it in his eyes.
His eyes.
He kept looking at me, making fun of me. And I told him not to, but he didn't listen.
Eddie, you can't just kill someone because of the way they looked at you.
You should see your face, James. I was just joking. The guy was dead when I got here. I got you, didn't I? Well, anyway, I better get going.
Wait. You're gonna go out there alone?
Yeah.
Eddie is beyond saving, but that's not important right now, because you're in a prison and you've got some shanking and puzzle solving to do. Playing with some lovely little weights on this balancing tool thing. I don't know what it's called, okay. You eventually make a gallows appear, which you then must pull down a noose at for whichever character is justified in what they did out of 6 cases. You make your choice, and... Ow. Anyway, you begin your next ascent into the endless series of f***ing holes, and wow, if this isn't the most uncanny ambience I've ever heard. You find Angela after journeying further into the maze of an otherworldly dimension, leading you to meeting probably the most disturbingly visceral enemy you could possibly imagine for a victim of SA. This thing. Fighting through corridors upon corridors, transitioning from walls of shredded wallpaper to stretched meat, you finally kill the damn thing in one last confrontation, and Angela throws a TV at it.
Calm down.
Don't order me around!
I'm not. It's okay. It's over.
Don't even try.
Try what?
Like you don't know. I see what you're doing. It's always the same with you. You're only after one thing.
Angela, please.
You don't have to lie. Go ahead. Say it. Or you could just force me. Like he always did. You disgusting pig.
Both James and Angela have some back and forth, each dealing with their own denial and conflict, before she runs off and it's time for you to make your way to the labyrinth. You run into Maria, who's alive again. Yay. She's being sussy, and James is generally pretty confused about the whole thing.
I'll find some way to...
What the fuck?
But moving on, you play through the worst part of the game, these series of horrible, unending mazes. Oh, stop f***ing me with your tentacle! Until eventually finding Maria dead. Afterwards, you actually find the Pyramid Head sword.
Yo, I've become Pyramid Head.
And are able to use it to part this wall of arms to eventually reach what appears to be 3 open graves. One for Angela, one for Eddie, and one for you. Without hesitation, well, you know the drill. Walking down a hallway that starts to get really bloody, you have one final encounter with your boy Eddie. Unfortunately, there really is no saving him.
How many times do I have to kill you?
Eddie? Whoa, Eddie, it's me.
Oh. Hi, James.
Eddie, what are you doing?
What's it look like I'm doing? You fat, disgusting piece of shit, you make me sick. You gonna cry, fat ass? You gonna run to your mama? Waste of skin, why don't you just kill yourself? Well, maybe he was right. Maybe I am nothing but a fat, disgusting piece of shit. But you know what? It doesn't matter if you're smart, dumb, ugly, pretty. It's all the same once you're dead. And a corpse can't laugh!
Eddie.
What's that? You want to talk down to me some more? Tell me to relax? You're just like the rest of them, James.
No, I don't want...
Shut up! You think I'm stupid. You think I don't see it. But you've been laughing at me all along. Ever since we first met. But you ain't laughing now, are you?
You need help, Eddie.
Don't get all holy on me, James. This town called you too. Yeah, you and me are the same. We're not like other people, don't you know that? Well, you're about to find out.
Eddie had a difficult childhood growing up. He was ridiculed for his weight, made fun of constantly, and even after graduating high school, he was further bullied, leading to him shooting and killing a man's dog while wounding the man himself with a shot to the knee. After being on the run from the crime, Eddie was pulled to Silent Hill, and that's ultimately how he wound up there. As the ultimate manifestation of his painful past and regrets, Eddie goes full paranoia mode, accusing James of making fun of him behind his back. When he threatens to shoot you, you whack the gun out of his hand, and he kind of runs off into this full-on meat freezer room with hanging corpses to boot. This is where you're forced to fight and kill Eddie.
Yeah, I ran away after I killed that dog. But you know what? It was fun. It tried to chew its own guts up. Finally died all curled up in a ball. Then he came after me. I shot him too, right in the leg. He cried more than the dog. And now it's your turn, James.
After you mag dump Eddie, at long last, you escape the Otherworld, for now, and find yourself at the edge of the lake. Hopping onto a little boat, you row out into the fog, eventually reaching Lakeview Hotel. This happens to be a place that James and Mary actually stayed at during one of their visits to the town years back, and so James actually recognizes the spot almost right away. The hotel is pretty beautiful, with an incredible garden and a nice interior, albeit it's rather run down all things considered, but it's going to visually get worse over time as you uncover the truth. See, Lakeview is all about self-reflection at the end of the day. This is a fitting theme, considering it's effectively the last major level in the game. More than any of the previous areas you have to fight, solve, and traverse your way through, Lakeview Hotel makes James question himself through more puzzles, signs of some horribly buried past, and at times pretty challenging sections. Before you begin though, you find Laura.
Did I scare you?
Yeah, you did. I guess I deserved it, huh? The fart face that I am.
Maybe. Then again, maybe you're not so bad. Just annoying.
Uh-huh. So, you got any other things planned? I think I saw a dark room back there you could lock me up in.
No. I think you've had enough. For now.
Well, that's reassuring.
Besides, I need your help finding Mary.
I wish I knew.
But she said it in her letter.
Wait. So there really is a letter?
Oh. Yeah. Want to read it? Just don't tell Rachel, okay?
Who's Rachel?
She's our nurse. I, took it from her locker.
My dearest Laura, I'm leaving this letter with Rachel to give to you after I'm gone. I'm far away now, in a quiet, beautiful place. Please forgive me for not saying goodbye before I left. Be well, Laura. Don't be too hard on the sisters. And Laura, about James. I know you hate him because you think he isn't nice to me, but please, give him a chance. It's true, he can be a little surly sometimes, and he doesn't laugh much. But underneath, he's a really sweet person. I love you, Laura. I love you like my very own daughter. I wish things were different. I wish we could be happy together, like we talked about. Even so, I know you will have a good life. You're a strong, smart, Beautiful girl. Happy 8th birthday, Laura. Your friend, Mary.
How old are you?
I turned 8 last week.
That means... Mary couldn't have died 3 years ago. Is this the quiet, beautiful place she was talking about?
Me and Mary talked a lot about Silent Hill. She even showed me all her pictures. She really wanted to come back. She also talked a lot about you, you know? There kind of was this other letter. I think the one was for you. The envelope had your name on it. Mary wouldn't want me to keep it from you, so I just sort of kept it for you. Here.
It's empty. Laura, there's nothing in it.
What? But I didn't take it. I swear.
Well, where is it then?
I must have lost it. I gotta find it.
Laura!
It all comes back to that letter. Your goal here is to find that letter, but not exactly just for the sake of finding a piece of paper. You're trying to find the truth. Subsections here are pretty tough, and I'm not just talking about how many times my game crashed. There's this one part where you have to leave all your stuff behind in order to use an elevator that takes you to a basement where these enemies have free reign to basically f*** you up, and you just need to run and hide. This shit reminded me of Soma, honestly, which is a horror game where you similarly can't really fight back. But after you overcome that section and the rest, you finally find this videotape that Maria was alluding to earlier. A videotape that's about to reveal everything, the truth or some twisted version of it. What you see and what happens next all depends on your actions in the game leading up to this point, which is why it's important we finally talk about the endings. But before we can, let's conclude Angela's story, since her final cutscene is revealed around this time, regardless of which ending you end up getting to James's story. In some otherworld dimension, you find Angela in a burning room at the bottom of a staircase, and I'd like you to just watch this one in its entirety before we break it down.
Mama? Mama! I was looking for you. You're the only one left. Maybe then I can finally rest. Mama. What's wrong? Wait. You're not my mama. It's you.
I'm sorry, Angela. I think you were right. What we're looking for, it's not here. Not anymore.
Thank you for helping me earlier. But I wish you hadn't. Even Mama said it. I deserve what happened.
No, Angela, that is not true.
Don't pity me. I'm not worth it. Or maybe you think you can save me? Will you love me? Care for me? Heal all my pain? That's what I thought. James. Give me back the knife.
No, I won't.
Saving it for yourself. have it your way. It doesn't change anything.
It's hot as hell in here.
You see it too? For me, it's always like this.
What makes this scene so real is how, at the end of the day, you can't save people from themselves. Their problems internally, whether from the way they were born or environmental things, stuff just out of their control that happened to them. None of this is something that James or even that the most intelligent person in the world could save them from. If it wasn't clear by now, Angela was clearly sexually assaulted by her brother and father when she was a little girl, and her mother seemed to know and do nothing about it. Symbolic of how, even after searching for all this time in Silent Hill for her mama, she never found her. Her parents were never there for her. One outright abused her directly, and the other abused her through neglect. This is unfortunately all too common. And Angela's story in the game represents the reality that friends, strangers, hell, even lovers will never be able to heal the trauma that something like that can cause for someone. It's something they have to come to terms with on their own. That fire is their own too. And whether Angela dies here, we'll never really know. But with Angela's ending concluded, we can now cover James's endings. So allow me to introduce... There are 8 endings in total. Fitting for 8 parts, I know. There's 2 endings exclusive to the remake, so let's start with the original 6 before we cover those. Considering the seriousness of the source material, I'm going to explain the 2 joke endings first, just to get those out of the way. In the UFO ending, James walks outside with an item called the Channeling Stone as he sees some lights come down from the sky that eventually blind the shit out of him. And the game turns into a silent film as we see PlayStation 2 James walk towards modern James. This Space James claims to be the real version and that the remake one is just a clone, before an alien blasts his back and knocks him out. What did I just watch? In the dog ending, after James unlocks some door with the dog key, he walks into a terminal room with the Shiba Inu in the chair, operating the terminal. Turns out that in this ending, this dog is known as Mira, and it was behind the entire story of Silent Hill, pulling all the strings. James, now speaking in fucking Japanese for some reason, falls to his knees as Mira jumps down from her chair and starts licking him. As the credits roll, we get this Undertale-sounding ass dog music, but at least it somehow makes more sense than the UFO ending. Now for the actual true endings of the game. The videotape, in most of them, reminds James of something that the game had been alluding to all this time. James Sunderland killed his wife. With everything leading up to it, this should surprise you. But how he deals with that fact is different depending on the ending you get. Determined by all kinds of key items you can find and choices you make throughout the game, it's revealed that James killed Mary from frustration of wanting his life back. But whether or not that's the answer by itself depends on what you see next. In the Rebirth ending, James finds Mary after watching the videotape, but he calls her bluff and knows it's actually Maria. After fighting her, we see James rowing a boat across Toluca Lake, trying to presumably find the old god that the Order cult had worshipped and resurrect Mary with it. James seems a bit batshit insane during this cutscene, and while it never shows if he succeeds or not, it can be assumed that due to the themes of the Silent Hill games, that the fact that he never moved on from Mary would suggest this doesn't end well. Eddie never moved on, and well, you can see what happened to him. So this similar fate for James would make sense. The Maria ending shows Mary and James talking about the past, and how James, instead of moving on, has latched onto Maria. After this boss fight concludes, it shows James waking Maria up. They then head to his car from the beginning of the game, and Maria starts to cough. This might be symbolic of the fact that even in this kind of delusion, Maria can never escape what Mary would become with her illness. The ending that I got in my first playthrough, in water, is possibly the most depressing. After the normal fight, we see James in his car as he talks about how he can't forgive himself for what he did and accepts while Mary wouldn't want him to do what he's about to do, it doesn't matter anymore because she's gone. We get a small glimpse of her corpse in the back seat before James steps on the gas and drives his car into the lake. During the note from Mary, she states at the end that she understood why he started to hate her and how she wants James to live on even after she's gone, for himself and the ones still alive around him. This is a sad conclusion about a man so desperate for retribution for his own sins that he took it upon himself to deliver this kind of punishment. In the Leave ending, we get a glimpse of Mary, bedridden due to her illness, and James sitting next to her. This doesn't seem to be a flashback though, since it's presumably the spirit of Mary talking to him in a recreation ventilation of her room during her last moments. Mary reaffirms to James that she wanted the pain to end, but James claims that he did it out of hatred and that he wanted his life back. But Mary responds with this.
If that's true, then why do you look so sad?
Mary.
It's okay, James.
So that likely confirms that James did still love Mary till the end and simply wanted her to not suffer anymore. Though due to the 3 years of anger, he used that anger as an excuse to finally end her pain. As James seems to be the person to always hate himself, he kept on with thinking he killed her out of pure hatred. At the end of their last conversation, Mary hands him her last letter and the screen fades to black. Fades back in with Laura as we see James walking to her and giving her Mary's last note. Mary's voice reads through the letter, concluding with her telling James to live on for himself and the people around him, while James and Laura walk out of the graveyard, finally leaving Silent Hill. Those were all the original endings they kept in the remake, but it also introduced 2 new ones. The Bliss ending involves James drinking something called White Claudio, which is made from a native flower found near Toluca Lake and has hallucinogenic supernatural properties that in the past the town actually started to refine into PTV, a drug that created this whole market. Anyway, at the end point of the game, when he puts the tape into the VHS, instead of getting the tape that jogs his memory of him murdering his wife, we see a tape of Mary and James embracing, appearing as a loving couple.
Come on, we need to finish packing.
And the last shot reveals that James isn't here anymore. This ending is by far the most ambiguous, but a theory that's possible is due to the properties of White Claudio. When James puts in the tape, he sees what he wants to see, something that'll give him bliss. Maybe then he literally transferred himself into this blissful reality, as seen with James just disappearing without anything else to follow it. Your answer is as good as mine with this one. Now for the last ending, Stillness. This one is more or less the same as the In Water ending, though with him talking to a hallucination of Mary in this one instead of just himself. He really lets loose here.
I am so sorry.
It's okay.
Will you wait for me?
James. I've always been waiting for you.
Whether James dies here, like the In Water ending, really isn't clear. There's a chance that maybe he jumped out of the car before it drove into the lake. There's also a chance that it's just the same fate. But what do you think? Of all the endings, which one is your favorite? And if you played the original, how do you interpret these newly added endings? Silent Hill 2 is a sad game. Yes, I'm stating the obvious here. And my god, if Luke Roberts isn't nominated for some kind of goddamn award for this, I will personally slap Jeff Keighley harder than Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. In Minecraft, of course. But really, Silent Hill 2 has been an incredible game to cover, especially in 2024. I said it at the beginning of the video, and I'll say it again. As the Gen Z that I am, I feel really lucky to be able to experience this story in such great detail so many years after it was made. There's a certain immersion into a distant past era of video games that I really felt playing through this game. It's something that I rarely get to have, so for that, I think it's safe to say that myself and a lot of other players really appreciate what the developers of Bloober Team pulled off here. It's just incredible. But have you played the remake? What do you think about it overall? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like this video, subscribe for more. And as always, remember, Pyramid Guy has a fat ass.
Hey, what's up, bitch? Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Oh, whoa, you wanna fucking try that? Bitch! Bitch! Bitch!
This video is made for people. Really? Wait, it's made for people?